All right, hello again. This is Ben Hitchcock Cross basements of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Here, man, I'm back. That's the biggest news, and I'm gonna be rambling here a little bit. We will record some other stuff today. I got some other stuff in the hopper. I know I've been gone, but right now it's gonna be for me for doing some rambling and catching you all up. Man, people should frequently check the settings on their beard trimmers. I often find prior to using them. That's my life advice for today. Um, I basically just have like quick updates or where am I at? I have been in a few WERC hearings. We can talk about those. But mostly I have been writing the response and getting collaboration and on this issue of what are we going to do about the hot mic recording. The Department of Workforce Development is intent on continuing this hearing and getting in my opinion, are completely illegal decisions by Larissa Benitez Morgan, just completely illegal. The whole thing was a sham, from what she has divulged to us, that it was for the entire purpose of getting me and showing that how tough she was. Um, and I think that that's unconscionable. I think the whole point of her job is to hear Wisconsin Fair Employment Act cases and to decide them fairly. Um, to discuss with Matt White, the person who supposedly investigates, the chief investigator in the state of Wisconsin. No, no employment claim goes anywhere without going past that I should be arrested, and him agreeing that my briefs are full of lies. I don't know that I've ever submitted anything to him. I do know that he is probably very likely upset when Amy Russell's decision to not accept a withdrawal of a complaint, even though it was in writing, because the words on that writing exercised someone's free speech and said that they were doing so only because of what they perceived as they were withdrawing their complaint because of the illegal pressure from Celsor and the ALJs indefinitely holding their case in abeyance. So that case, by the way, was appealed to LERC. I guess we'll have to make a note of what's happened with that there. Um, yeah. So that is that one. We are still just sort of there and trying to hold a hearing a week from today. We have now filed in the circuit court for Eau Claire County, some ways out of there. Out of everybody's sort of atmosphere. Remember, Amy Petchacek, the Secretary of the Department of Workforce Development, is a former HR administrator for the Milwaukee County, lives in Milwaukee County, and is definitely connected in Milwaukee County. And as Dane County is the other place that might come up, which is going to be sort of off limits for us because of the connection with Dane County. That's where the seat, sorry, Madison is in Dane County. So a Dane County judge is also shorthand here for like a liberal wacko who's in fantasy world. I don't know if that's true or not true or whatever, but that is the shorthand. Um, okay. So yesterday I was invited to go to a meeting, uh, lunch with a friend of mine, and before that discussion, we started coming up with school boards and Milwaukee public schools. And, you know, I think he had concerns about he's got kids who are about to go to high school and what high school do you go to? And MPS has this thing where they're constantly cannibalizing because some interest group thinks that they need to have a new high school or whatever. So then they create a new high school, which then siphons off from all the established high schools. The better people. Meanwhile, the pool is still shrinking because they're getting destroyed on all sides by voucher programs and then their own incompetence. Um, that's my feeling on that. To be clear, I do feel that MPS is under assault. No question about that. Now, if you're under assault, do you go around saying it's everybody's fault but mine? Or do you become the best thing that you can be so that you can counteract that assault? Those seem to me to be the two sort of possibilities on that continuum there. Um, I feel that saying it's everybody's fault but mine is not acceptable when you're teaching our kids. If you're in charge of a glue factory, by all means, it's everybody's fault but yours, no problem. But not for our kids, no sir. So there's many of the school board members, directors at Milwaukee Public Schools are not running for reelection. The one that we're talking about here is the seat of Jilly Golkol Gandhi. I think I've got that right. They just call her Jilly. So they like nobody bothers with their last name. So I just don't have very much practice with it. I don't try to call her anything along those lines, one way or the other, but sometimes that we get into that. Okay. So it's a thing where it's a shoe in, there's no opposition. This person is going to be the new school board member. So, what am I there for? In my opinion, I'm there to give my Bob Peterson spiel. Oh, this guy lives next to Bob Peterson, nearabouts, and Bob Peterson's, running a fundraiser for him. Got it. Okay. He's a former teacher at the local high school. Um, but more than that, he is a bona fide community organizer, which is something I'm not by any means. Um, I appreciate community organizers, but I am not that personality type. It's not my favorite personality type, but that's just me. Um, so this guy he's got honors of like putting together the River West 24, which is a fairly famous bike ride in River West. Uh, that goes over days at one day and uh with cars, and it's a whole thing, and people are wearing costumes, and it's absolutely fun in the sun, and it's a whole family. That is something to be proud of creating, no doubt about it. He also is really big into getting ice time for people who don't have ice time. Never thought of that would be a passion, but hey, what the heck, people want to skate, and that's not cheap. So that's this guy. So I am giving my spiel about if Bob Peterson is coming into place. Now, he naturally assumed that when I was a lawyer, he thought I meant I was a lawyer for like the teachers union. And his face changed a little when he understood that I'm sue school board members, not work for them. Um, but that's okay. The main thing that I want to talk to you here about is uh, my my pitch on Bob Peterson is simply this. There's two things about it. You're not better than Bob Peterson. I'm not better than Bob Peterson. If you can think of somebody else better than him to have been in this place of being elected to the school board and then the school board president, then by all means, let's have it be that person effect. But right now, the effect is that the best possible person that anybody could think of rises to the head of the school board, and he's still not in, and the best interest of the children are still not being put forward. Now, how's that possible? That was the question. That's two facts I think we have. We know Bob Peterson's head of school board. We know that the right thing's not being done. Okay. I mean, we saw them remove um, the superintendent, among other things. So I think um, we know how that took place. So, okay, the point again there is, did you think while Bob Peterson was the school board president that there were the best interest of the children involved? I mean, it's just not something that I saw. So, I did see, for example, there would be things like we would talk up, they would make announcements like the Native Americans, that there was a lot more of these paying homage towards peoples who had been historically discriminated against in Milwaukee. But there wasn't really anything to do to change the actual discrimination that was going on there. And when people were saying that, telling them point blank that there was discrimination going on there, because we all saw those public meetings, it didn't seem like the number one priority was to um, address those issues so much as to protect the school district. Okay, we've talked about this several times here, but that is um, the message that I would give to any new school board member is if you think you're smarter than Bob Peterson and you think that's not going to happen to you, I think you're already failed. That's my message. That's it in a nutshell. So, the first thing that we hear out of this guy's mouth is the problem with the school is our white flight and vouchers. And white flight to him means that not poor whites, any whites with money are leaving the district, and either by going to private schools or by moving out of the district. And this is something that's almost unbelievable. There is a school district south of Milwaukee, well known. It's called St. Francis. Okay, it's my understanding that there are more pupils in the St. Francis School District that live in the city of Milwaukee than live in the city of St. Francis. There's arrangements or whatever. That's astonishing. And I will say that, like, if I know any in my dealings with them, if I know any, I'm just gonna leave these glasses off, apparently is what's gonna happen. If I know any um particularly Hispanic parents with means will have their children in there. And it's a weird thing because it's not just means, it's also the wherewithal and the gumption to sort of go and make this thing happen. There's a couple of steps really that you need to do, but other than that, the barriers aren't really if you're wealthy or not wealthy or whatever, just to be fair. Okay. But some reason the willingness to do that tracks with income. Okay. So fair. So then on the other hand, it's these vouchers, this is the so-called school choice program that I want to be clear that I have always been against school choice. At no time have I ever been for school choice. Um, and it did exactly what the people who created it intended to do, which was to rob the school districts, the public school districts of some of their most valuable pupils. I mean, you have to look at this way: is these pupils that have the wherewithal to move are also sort of the glue that holds any school district together. And so when you remove the glue here, you've tried gluten-free cake, right? So, I mean, if that isn't a good analogy, that the like, and no offense to people who don't eat gluten or anything else, but I think, taste-wise, if you've had a sort of gluten-free, the MPS of today is the gluten-free birthday cake. I think that's fair. Um, so you've got this dynamic where, and again, the vouchers, which is a scheme where the government pays you to basically go to a private school, even though there's caps on those, and that's the main threshold is, how much budget is there for that? And then this school choice, which is also uh, we can go around to various districts here. And they've had this scheme under, they called it 220 years ago or whatever. They've had this scheme under various names, but essentially it's to allow the white children of a uh, failing district to go elsewhere. Okay. So that was sort of the main setup there. And I again, I just my response to that is, but then that sounds like it's everybody's fault but yours. And I'm not the specific issue that we're talking about here, just for example, is my friends doesn't want his children to go to a high school on the other side of the city because the high school of the year has decided the special interests have decided to move that to the other side of the city. This is another thing that he told me that was just fascinating, which is that in this eighth grade class, the female pupils are all electing to go to the further school because their perception is it's safer, and the boys are all electing to go to the closer school because that's the one they'd rather go to. Um, which I have no idea how that's going to pan out. No idea. And the 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 focus I hear on this conversation was I don't think we were even getting really past buzzwords. And if you want to talk about cognitive dissonance, I think it's fair to say that it was going on both sides. But then he started talking about specific families that he knew that were, quote, doing the right thing by putting their kids in MPS. And, I think this argument was valid when I was a child. And which meant, hey, the school system, white flight is bad. The school system in Milwaukee needs diversity. It needs rich people. It needs poor people. It needs all of those things. Your child, in fact, will get a better education in a more diverse environment. Uh, so why don't you send that child to Milwaukee Public Schools? Or to put it another way, not exercise the choice that you have to leave. Yeah. And but for the fight over the microscopes at Samuel Morse Middle School in 1987 or whatever, there would have, I think that would have been the thing. I probably would have gone to Riverside. I probably would have stayed within that system. And certainly there was no, I mean, it could have been better, it could have been worse, but there was nothing like, it wasn't my education and my educational opportunities were commensurate with, you know, upper level schools all over the country. And there's no doubt that I was in the upper tier at MPS the whole time. Okay, because even when I wasn't in the so-called gifted and talented school, I had NOLA's protection and all the rest. Okay. My mother was a union lawyer for many of the teachers. So we're almost wherever we went, there was somebody whose job she had saved. So, okay. But today, I don't think that that's really the case. I don't think, I mean, just again, I think from publicly available sources, um, just what you see in the news, I think it's a different sort of risk proposition for your child than it was 30 years ago. That I think that's the bottom line. And that it's the safety as much as I'm not even sure how I could put this just because of all the sort of restrictions I have on and on what I know. So let me put it like this. I think that, and this is where the rubber hit the road at this discussion here. I think that there are many adults in the Milwaukee public school system that still have the best interest of the children in mind, but I think that there is a significant quantity of those who do not, that uh the risk proposition, the value proposition of placing your child in that school district is I mean, I couldn't blame anybody. Certainly, I don't have my children, to be 100% clear, in the Milwaukee public school system. But I don't have them in that system, and this is to be clear because this is what was being said here, not because I'm racist. That's what, uh, not because I'm racist. And after the last year, I think we can all sort of get over being told that if we don't step in line with sort of blue politics, then we're racist. Because I just don't think that that fits with the available evidence. Again, you may have other views. Other people may have other views. Um, but there's a lot of things we like about white folks pay, but diversity isn't one of them. That's for sure. But okay, so it's you know being called racist again in general sense, in the specific sense. It's the shifting of the burden. And being a lawyer, I think that maybe I'm oversensitive to that here, but it's not my job to run a school district. It's my job to ensure that my children are being educated. And it's not my job to put my children at risk for the greater good. It's not. In fact, I've got the opposite job as far as I understand it. If you think I'm wrong about that, let me know. But no, I don't think that that's what being an American parent means um, at all. I think it specifically, if it's not written down anywhere, I'm pretty sure it's the every judge in this country would expect every parent to take every advantage for their child. I'm just saying. So now I also want to have a super big caveat here of look, not every child is amazing. Not every child needs to have special this. Not every child is um there's plenty of room for good enough parenting and good enough school district. I don't think that's what we're talking about here at all. That's 30 years ago. I think today we're not talking. So let's be clear. Um, we are talking about a situation in which um, it's the school district's responsibility to provide a learning environment in which children can learn. I think that's it. In loco parentis. I think there's nothing more than it's not my responsibility. Uh, so let's put it like this: School District A has race of whatever you want. School District B has race of whatever you want. The we're talking comparable, not even similar. I don't care about that, but just like commensurate on the same planet. Okay. And then if everybody moves from one to the other, you can say that they may have done that for race reasons. Okay. But when the two things are completely incommensurable, then you may have to look at the fact that there may be other criteria involved. And then again, just like saying that everybody who didn't vote for Kamala is racist, I think it's sort of the same edge of that token there. Which my problem with that line isn't that people who didn't vote for Kamala were racist or not racist. The problem I have with that line is that it's just uh, it reduces everybody to voting for one reason or another reason. And it lets people off the hook for their own actions. So just sticking with here, the Milwaukee Public Schools, it is to let them off the hook for if you say, hey, you're not providing an educational product that meets my criteria. Let me put that another way. You're not providing an educational service that is commensurable with the minimum standards. It's not even good enough. Then, for the safety and well-being of my children, I have to do X. Okay, I'm really, really having a hard time seeing why that nowadays is a uh, allegation that can be made. I mean, fairly made, right? I just don't get it. Again, the vouchers makes perfect sense. That's what you want to do. That's what you want to. Let me put that another way. That is a fair criticism against the state. Another fair criticism against the state is that their budgets, the amount of money that they actually provide to the MPS, is sort of stay static and the costs keep going up. Okay, that's fair. Problem on the other hand is that they've been completely drunk on the so-called ESSER, the federal grant money from COVID, and that they have been using that um, like so many other districts. And now those good times are over, and somebody's got to pay the piper. It's going to be the children, I'm afraid, who have to cram it. So I think it's fair to say that I went around twice here on the subject of why I don't think that A, it's a good idea to say it's everybody's fault but mine, and B, measurable events show that the district's priority does not seem to be creating the best educational product that it can. And I think the response was twice around that it's not the teachers, it's not the administrators, it's the legislature and the white parents. And you try to engage with everybody, but I just don't see how that there's anything more to be said. We can call it cognitive dissonance, we can call it not, but again, in my mind, that's not an examined um, approach or understanding. It's not a considered approach or understanding. It's not commensurate, I think, with the facts. Now, I'm not a teacher, never have been. Um, and teaching in middle school is high school is a significant endeavor. Totally get that. Um, and I know that there are facts on the ground that teacher is going to have access that I don't have access to. But it's also fair to say that in my line, I have seen and talked to a great many MPS professionals. And so I think I have that understanding, which may be broader. frankly. It may be broader than a teacher's view. Um, but even on those simple two issues here, come, let's imagine a world in which a legislator is terrible and uh, rich parents, white parents are fleeing. Uh, In my mind, the response is to get better and not to give yourself a pass for doing worse. And that's it. You know, I really love this one from if you go up in front of Judge Stevens or Judge Boyd, or there's another one that I'm particularly enamored with down in Texas, and you tell them about your problems, they're going to remind you that we all have problems. And I think that's the message that I need to send here is that we all have problems, but we all have jobs to do. And just because we have a problem doesn't mean that we don't have a job to do. And, you know, for Judge Boyd, you're just fulfilling your conditions of parole. But for here, it's much more important. These are the children of the city of Milwaukee. And in my personal feeling is that um, they're worth more than all the administrators in all the school districts in all the world. So thanks for sticking with us. We'll keep you informed. If being in the accepted political classes means accepting the status quo in Milwaukee public schools, then I'm not okay with that. And that's where I'm at. It's a put the children first.